All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. I'm Gina Penzig. I'm manager of external communications for Evergy. We're here this afternoon to provide an update on power restoration following the windstorm that moved through Kansas and Missouri yesterday and last night. We're going to have Chuck Caisley make some prepared remarks, and then afterwards, for those of you who are part of the Zoom news conference, you can use the Q&A function that is at the bottom of your screen to submit questions. Then once Chuck is done with his prepared remarks, we will take some time to answer any questions you may have. So Chuck, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay, so waiting here to make sure it shifts. All right, there we go. So wanted to welcome everybody tonight. Again, my name is Chuck Caisley, and I'm the Chief Customer Officer for Evergy. Thanks for being here to get this update. So I wanted to start out and say, as we've counted throughout the day, we have approximately 258,000 customers that had outages at the peak of this storm and cumulatively. That started yesterday afternoon with gusting winds between 40 and 60 miles an hour. Latest information we have from some of our wind farms is that we had straight line winds that gusted in excess of 100 miles an hour. Those readings picked up from southwest Kansas and in through the middle of the state. So cumulatively, we've had 258,000 customers that were out. Right now, we are down to approximately 28,000 customers that are out. We had 1,100 people work through the night to assess damage and to help with restoration. By sunup this morning, we were at about 60% restored. And as we sit here right now, we are approaching approximately 90% of the customers who were impacted by outages being restored. Again, that number is just about 28,000 is what we have remaining out today. Of those 28,000, right around 18,000 sit in the state of Kansas, and just under 11,000 are in the state of Missouri. Now, there are several factors that really impacted our ability to restore outages in this storm. The first is that the major damage started occurring right before sundown, which means that the first part of restoration, as well as a lot of the damage assessment, had to go on in the nighttime while the storm was still within our service territory. The second thing that really impacted our outage situation was the fact that, unlike many storms where you have tornadic winds or thunderstorms where damage is more localized in a region of our service territory, this actually had a system that stretched from Nebraska all the way down to Oklahoma and caused outages from the north, the very northern border of our service territory, all the way down to the southern border. And as you can see, there's a graphic here that shows about 5:30 yesterday. You can see how the storm stretches literally across the entirety of our service territory and then moved from the west all the way over to the east. The other thing that you can see that this resulted in is outages that were all across the service territory. Again, sometimes we may have localized outages in Kansas City or in Topeka or in Wichita, concentrations of damage. As you can see, the outages we had at the peak of this storm ranged all the way down from Coffeyville and Pittsburgh up north to the very tip top of our service territory in Missouri, which would include Maryville, Savannah, St. Joseph in Missouri. And so I point this out because one of the things that is going to make restoration a little bit longer in this situation is the fact that the damage is so widespread and so spread out over the entirety of our service territory. I mentioned that we had some readings from our wind farms, which are, start around Wichita and go down into the southwestern portion of the state of Kansas. Again, we had upwards of 100-mile-an-hour gusts of wind, which for those of you who are interested is the equivalent of an F1 tornado. And this is, again, this happened across our service territory. So where are we now? Well, we've already done the damage assessment. That was done overnight and was wrapped up this morning. And the next thing we do when we restore power is we work on transmission lines. These are the big interstate lines that carry very large amounts of power. We need to make sure that those are up and that those are safe. And so those are the things we work on next. And then what we do is we go through and we try and fix larger outages. And we do that by clearing trees and debris off of the lines and then putting the lines back up and fixing those outages. Where we are now, most of the outages we have left. If you are still out of power, then you are on a relatively small outage. That means it might impact 5, 10, maybe 25 people, but they're very small outages. Some even we've got upwards of 1,000 that are just 1 or 2 customers impacted. And again, they're spread out all over Kansas and all over the state of Missouri due to the nature of this storm. These larger outages take a lot of time to reach, and each one of them has a particular problem that we have to work on. And so by its very nature, it just takes more time. So that's what we're working on now. Most of the larger outages have been resolved and customers have been restored. Again, we're at about 28,000 customers that are out as we go into sundown tonight. The good news is we asked for assistance from our neighboring utilities, Ameren out of St. Louis, Liberty Utilities out of Joplin, and Springfield. The city of Springfield utilities out of Springfield, Missouri have all responded to our first wave of calls. Right now, we have between 250 and about 300 additional line personnel, contractors, and vegetation management teams that are moving into our service territory. We expect that they'll arrive in various spots inside Kansas between 5:30 and 8:30 tonight. Some of them, when they get here, will immediately begin to work, and others will wait to switch out with crews as their federally mandated hours of service time are up. So what next? Well, we expect that we will continue to work through the night tonight and in many areas through the day tomorrow. But through the end of the day tomorrow, we are hoping to get a significant number of people restored and get closer to that 95, 96, 97% of our customers restored. Until then, we urge a couple of things. One, please stay away from areas that have been blocked off either by utility personnel, fire departments, or law enforcement. If there's barricades up and it looks like there are wires down, that could very well be a dangerous situation. We've had a couple of incidents today where people have tried to go through those areas, and it just creates a very dangerous situation. The second thing that we would ask is just your patience. We get it. It's the holiday season. People have plans. People have activities. Nobody wants to have an outage during this time of the year. We are doing absolutely everything we can, throwing everything we have at it, and asking for assistance from our brother and sister utilities in neighboring states. We're going to work around the clock until we get these outages restored. But again, it's going to take through the day tomorrow, and in a few cases, and in a few places in Missouri and in Kansas, it could extend into Saturday. The bulk of power should be restored through tonight and tomorrow. But again, there could be some people as late as Saturday that will still see some issues. So that's what I have for this evening. And now I would love to take any questions that folks have.
So for those who have joined us on the conference call from the media, if you have any questions for Chuck, go ahead and put those in the chat and I will be glad to pass those along. So our first question is to ask if there is a cost estimate for the damage from this storm.
That's a great question. And no, we do not have a cost estimate yet. We are focused completely on restoring power. Storms like this, you think about restoration, you think about getting that done quickly, getting that done safely, and really any concerns around cost are secondary. We're not going to spare any cost when it comes to getting the lights back on and power restored to customers. I can tell you in a storm of this magnitude, which is one of the largest that Evergy has ever experienced, it's probably easily in the top 5. And certainly the biggest storm that we've experienced since becoming Evergy. It is, it's going to stretch into the millions and millions of dollars. It'll be multiple millions of dollars. But again, that is a secondary priority to us right now. What's most important is getting the lights back on quickly and getting it done safely.
Our next question, were any of the wind farms damaged?
Were any of the wind turbines damaged?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There were some. So the great thing about technology with renewables and wind turbines is whenever there's a storm like this that is forecast to come, we prepare for it. Some of the things that we do are we stage personnel, tree crews, line crews around the service territory. We make sure that we get materials such as transformer wires and poles ready to go. We hold folks in our call centers to make sure that we can answer calls, and we put some additional resources behind our website so that it can handle the increased traffic. Among the things that we do is we take all of the wind farms that are in the storm's path, which for us would have been the majority of, if not all of our wind farms, and we're able to essentially disconnect the turbine from the blades and then lock the blades into place so that we avoid damaging the wind turbines. It might be counterintuitive, but you can actually have a wind turbine that is turning too fast and can cause it to overheat and or other problems and cause damage. So in this case, we did not, we had some cosmetic damage to some. There were very high winds, again, registered upwards of 100 miles an hour, straight line wind gusts that we saw. But no major damage to the wind turbines, and they are back in operation today. Other questions?
Yes, our next question. If someone has already reported their outage, do they need to continue to report it?
No, that's a great question. If you have reported your outage, you do not need to continue to report it. We have your outage. It's recorded. If we haven't gotten to it yet, it's just because it's probably a smaller outage. It may be in a hard to get to place, and it is simply an issue of having enough people to get to all the outages. I may have mentioned earlier, we still have over 3,500 individual outage events, and that's just a massive number. If you think about the fact that we have 1,100 to 1,200 people working currently, we're going to bring on another 250 to 300 this evening from neighboring utilities. Then, even with that, you're looking at 1,400, 1,500 different people working more than 3,500 problem areas. So it's just going to take a little while to get to. In addition, you saw the map that we put up earlier. This is literally spread over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles. Like I said, most storms that we have tend to hit an area or a region of our service territory. It might hit Kansas or Missouri. It might hit Kansas City or Wichita. But it's very, very rare that you see a system stretch the entire length of the service territory, south to north, north to south, and then move literally from the western border all the way through, causing power outages and damage as it goes. This is a very unique storm, and we still have lots of small outages that's going to take a little while to get to. But if you've reported it, we have it, and we intend on working it just as soon as we can get people to it.
Okay. I don't have any other questions in the queue. Does anyone else who's on the Zoom conference have a question for Chuck?
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. If there aren't any more questions, then that'll conclude this for right now, and I'm sure we'll be back with more a little later.